grateful to introduce our speaker. His name's Ben Ribkoff. He's from Canada, and he is a part of this kind of like nutrition wellness group that I belong to. And I've been following Ben kind of silently, but he'll do these posts every morning, you know, and he's leading people out in that neck of the woods and all over the world by pretty much being the light. You know, he's a meditation teacher. He's a yoga instructor. He's an ELDOA trainer. He's certified in all these things. But like, what I love about Ben is he just shines. So when I go on my Instagram every morning, I look forward to checking out what Ben's up to, because he's always making a shake. He's always just giving some words of wisdom. He's always just in the park doing his Qigong. And man, people are following you, and you're bright. And I'm just so pumped to have people like you on my journey with me, man. I truly love you. I barely know you, but I feel that energy you got, man. And I thank you so much for spending the time and coming on here, man. So the mic is yours.
First, I want to start by saying I'm humbled by all those kind words, and I appreciate everything. It's super humbling when you allow the divine to move through you, and it's not really you who's speaking. So thanks for that. You know, I'm just a vessel for whatever's speaking through me. So yeah. So, and then the other thing I wanted to ask, and this is going to make you guys laugh probably, but like, I am so not prepared, and that's the way I like to be. So where would you like me to start?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So just tell us about your journey and kind of like what got you into this whole, you know, like what got you into wanting to better yourself? Was it something you always had, or when did it like kind of come about?
Yeah, I can start, sure. So I can remember actually exactly when I started this journey. So so when did I really start this journey? The first time I really started this journey is the first time I tried cannabis. So that goes back to, I think I was 12 or 13 years old. I was young. So I had friends that were always older. They liked me for some reason. They always said that I was much older than my age. So I was 12 or 13, and I was hanging out with guys that were like 16, 17. And one day they took me out to this field out in Montreal. And at this field, it's just like it feels like you're in the middle of nowhere. And I remember trying it, not really knowing what I was doing, like most of us the first time you try. And then my friends, they were just like, lie down in the grass. So I lied down in the grass with about 6 other guys. And it was a summer night, and we stared up at the stars. And the first thing that I said to them was, man, I'd never seen the stars so bright. Like, how come they're so bright? And everybody just started laughing. And I didn't know what was funny, but to me, it was like, I'd never seen the stars that bright before. So needless to say, we stared out at the stars for a while, and I totally got hooked on that feeling, not really knowing what the feeling was. So anytime that I used it with my friends, even back then when I was young, I wasn't using it to like eat pizza or whatever. I was using it, and then I would go into nature and hug trees as a little kid, or appreciate nature more. Everything became more and more magnified. And that lasted for quite a while until I met a friend of my uncle's who was a Buddhist practitioner for many, many years. And I shared with him what I was experiencing, and he said, you know, you don't need that to experience what you're experiencing. And so then I was kind of like, well, what do you mean? I never was able to kind of tap into this, whatever it is, without that. And he goes, well, let me walk you through a Buddhist meditation. And I was about 18 years old. And he was right. So I was able to achieve that state naturally. And then of course, I started playing with both. So I was like, okay, what's going to happen if I use cannabis and then meditate? And then it was just like, I started to leave my body regularly and achieve all kinds of funky stuff. So that was the first part of my journey. So consciousness was first. Second was, believe it or not, everybody sees me as this really athletic, lean guy. If you follow me on social media, I'm in pretty good shape. When I was that age, I was 205 pounds. And just to give you an idea, I'm 160 pounds. So I had 45 pounds extra weight on me. I had those big rolls on your stomach, probably like 4 of them. And I woke up one day and I remember looking down at my stomach. I was lying on my side and saying, this voice just came to me, what are you going to look like when you're 40? And now I'm almost 40. So I remember putting on my running shoes and something told me, you got to go run. So I tried to run and I made it legitimately a block and a half. I couldn't make it 2 blocks. And then the voice just said to me, all right, tomorrow you're going to run 2. And I did. And then it was 3 and then it was 4. And that led me to 5 kilometers. By the time I could finish 5K, I started researching just how to eat properly because I felt like it kind of went like that. And then I was living at my mom's house, so she had a garage. And I asked her if I could gut the garage and make a gym. And she was cool enough to let me do that. So I started putting some old school weights in there, bench press, of course. That's pretty much all I did. And started lifting. So now I was lifting, running, figured out what whole foods were and what healthy foods were, organic foods, and mixing that with the meditation. And yes, still using cannabis, kind of using it all as like I don't know, I guess you can say it was my own holistic approach to health and fitness. And from 18 years old when I started to 19, I went from 205 pounds with, love handles and I think my waist was like 36 inches or something, to 160 pounds with a shredded 6-pack and maybe like less than a 30-inch waist. And everybody, my friends, my family, all asked me how I did it. And I just said, well, I ate right, I ran, I lifted weights, I meditated, and I smoked pot to recover. And 20 years later, I'm still doing the same shit. So here I am. That's pretty much my journey.
That is fantastic, man, and I admire the hell out of that journey. Now, did you entirely kind of walk alone on it? Because I know some people that walked alone, and kind of like, because we have so many, it can be hard with how much programming there is out there, So like, as you were swimming against, did you feel like you were swimming against the tide? Did you have any mentors? Like, how did you stay true to that? Because that takes a lot of ambition, man, based off of like how, the surrounding external environment that exists today.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, at first I did my own thing. I always looked up to guys that were in good shape. So that was always inspiring to look up to guys that were in good shape, reading, doing my own thing. And then I would say the most powerful influence I had in my life when I was I met him when I was 24, was Paul Chek. And I think that's pretty similar to a lot of people on the holistic health path. And I remember meeting Paul, and back then, so that's almost 13, 14 years ago, this guy seriously blew my mind. Like, everything that I was into, he was, but for way longer. And, not only was this guy, what was so impressive about him was he had an amazing energy, an amazing aura. I liked him because he was really rooted into the earth. He was very physically strong. He could deadlift back then over 500 pounds. And yet he had this spiritual side and care for the planet. And so that's 12, 13 years ago. And to this day, I would say 90% of what he taught me is true. So he was a huge influence. As well, I was lucky enough to meet some really incredible yogis here in Montreal. One of them was, when I met him, he was 88 years old, practicing since he was 7 years old. So you can imagine. So I met a couple cool yogis and some Buddhist monks, and just kind of took from different teachers, met some cool people along the way, and that kept me grounded and moving forward on my journey.
Now, what are some of the things that that you like do with your clients like today that you offer them, and how do you like, you know, it's sometimes it's different to like take yourself to a place of wellness versus taking somebody else through it. But what do you offer your like students today?
Yeah, good question. So I would say it's interesting because as you guys can tell, I'm just getting into social media and technology now. I could barely get on the Zoom call. I just finished teaching a class. Actually, I had to rush over to get here, that I combined ELDOA. I don't know if you guys kind of know what that is, but I can explain, and Tai Chi together. So again, it's just kind of my experiences as I go. So I offer group classes like that. But my main job, and it's going to sound funny, every time I say it, people are always like, but you're so much more than that. But this is how people understand what I do. So I'm a personal trainer. That's my main job. And when I market myself that way, I get more clients that I get to work with. And then what I do is I blend in the holistic side. I blend in the nutrition and the lifestyle, because when I used to market myself as let's say a holistic lifestyle coach, people would be like, well, wait a sec, my lifestyle's good. You know, I don't need a shrink kind of thing. But the people that were looking for a personal trainer to get in shape don't really know sometimes that deep down they need to learn how to eat properly, you know, how to move, how to address the emotional body and the spiritual body and the mental body. So I guess what I really specialize at with my clients, most people say, is I have the ability to meet each person where they're at on their journey and their state of consciousness and being, so that they can understand and relate to me. So let's just say I meet someone who's really been on their journey and their path for a while. We might start talking about metaphysical things and things like that. But if I meet a businessman that's never done a meditation in his life, it might be a huge accomplishment for me to get him to eat organic food and work on deep breathing every day for a few minutes. So that's really what I do.
Yeah, now, could you go into that, ELDOA? Because I'm not too familiar, and I know that you're passionate about it. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that,
Yeah, so ELDOA is a French acronym. In English, it defines as LOADS, LOADS. So bear with me. Longitudinal, osteo, articular, decoaptation, stretching. Honestly, that sums into how to create space. So what's cool about the ELDOA is a French osteopath created it over 30 years ago. And he made a specific ELDOA for every joint and vertebral body in the human spine, which is mind-blowing when you think about it. It means that with your own tension in your body, you can pinpoint, let's just say a classic lower back problem for most people is going to be a herniation at L4-5 or L5-S1, right? The last fourth and fifth vertebra of your lumbar spine, classically herniated. So this dude, knowing his anatomy and his biomechanics, created postures or exercises to be able to create space anywhere he wants in the body using the anatomy. So I learned that in 2012. And I've been practicing it and teaching it ever since.
That's fantastic. And now, does that touch upon the emotional body at all too? Because I heard you say that you work with clients on the emotional body. Is that the main way you go about that, freeing stuck energy, or?
So yeah, that's a great question. So, as we know, the body and the mind have a direct correlation, right? As well as the soul. So I start where I can. So let's just say somebody's more comfortable starting with the body and eating good food, right? So if I can get them on the right nutrition to get their inflammation down, to heal their gut, to get them feeling well and nourished, and then start to create some space inside their body, generally speaking, the spiritual side of them and the emotional, the spiritual and the mental body starts to open up and allow me in there. Whereas if I were to start with taking them, this is just my approach, taking them into, let's just say, deep pranayama, yogic breathing, or really deep meditative practices, or talking about emotional trauma they might have had since they were a child, they might do this to me, tell me to fuck off, and then I can't help the person. Whereas if I can start at the physical level and then start to move to the emotional, mental, and the spiritual, that's kind of how I work, kind of like a chameleon, and I find a way. And eventually every single client that I coach ends up embodying, so it's nutrition, hydration, sleep, thinking, moving, and breathing. So when they get the 6 pillars of health down, which Paul Chek taught me a long time ago, then you generally have a being that is very well and whole and complete.
That's fantastic, man. Thank you. You just shared so much wisdom, and I've been talking back and forth with you, but I want to open it up to the community here, because I know that they're going to have a lot of questions for you. So, Joey, you ready to rock it? I see you over there. Go ahead, buddy.
Yo, Ben, that was awesome, man. Awesome stuff. And it's cool too, because hearing, I mean, we have a lot of people in recovery in this group, a lot of people. And sometimes when you touch back on things like plant medicines or cannabis and stuff like that, it can be tough for people to digest that in the space that is therapeutic versus what maybe cannabis was originally used for them, or how it's normally thought about as a whole.
Right.
Because cannabis, in my opinion, can be, I also use cannabis therapeutically. And I think that it is, when managed well, can be really, really good for certain people. So maybe you could speak a little bit to the fact of how to maintain cannabis, is not maybe take it out of the light that it's in and help shed a little bit light on its therapeutic, and how to make it so that way it's not this abused thing that's a recreational party drug, and it can be just in the same line with all the other plant medicines that are used as therapy.
Yeah, that's very well said. I was lucky enough that at a young age, I traveled to Jamaica. And not only did I travel to Jamaica, but a friend of mine put me in contact with a group of Rastafarians, real Rastafarians. So that eat only organic, what they call ital food that is filled with good energy from the soil. That use cannabis as a way to get closer to Jah. So Jah to them is God, or consciousness, or love. To respect one another. They believe in one love, Bob Marley's philosophy. And when I got there, back then as a skinny little white boy amongst all these Rastas, they really took me under their wing, and we would do prayers beforehand. They have churches, kind of like temples, where you pass around the cannabis and then you go into meditative states to get closer to love or consciousness or God. And I was already kind of doing that, but these guys took it to the next level. So what I do to this day, I'm not a Rasta. I don't label myself as anything, because in my, to be honest, I don't know who I was yesterday. So when I wake up each day, I feel like a completely new person. And I don't ever go by who I was yesterday or what I labeled myself or what my views were. Probably why people get attracted, I think, to what I do is that I truly try to get out of the way and allow the divinity in me to speak. So how I use cannabis to this day. The first thing I do is I set an intention. So I set an intention on how I'm going to use this plant, whether that's going to be to heal wounds, whether that's going to be to get closer to love or consciousness, whether that's going to be to try to connect to someone from a distance. But the first thing is to set an intention. Then it's going to sound interesting, but each breath that I take in, I try to visualize like it's my last breath. So when you do that and you inhale it that way, and I know there's many ways to use it, and you truly set that as your intention, it's like a whole other thing. You know, I have friends that use cannabis too, more for like, you know, to chill out or like, you know, watch Netflix or whatever it is. And I'm not one to judge. But when they come to my home, there's a ritual. And every single time that they leave, they say to me, dude, how come I feel so awesome when I do this? And usually I just smile. And I say to them, well, it's because we're setting an intention. And then they're like, yeah, but you know, it's the same thing. And when I do it and I watch Netflix, it's not the same. I feel different. I say, yeah, well, you know, the power of our consciousness and our thoughts is very well studied now and known, that our perception or our thoughts create biology or chemistry. Right? Dr. Bruce Lipton is my favorite on that. And, you know, meaning if you really set an intention that this plant can be used in a positive way, this is again just my opinion, in a positive way to come into a state of unity or love or oneness, then you can. But it starts with you and the intention that you set forth.
That's beautiful. And I think that kind of coincides with almost everything. It could coincide with your meditation. If you don't set an intention for even grace during your meditation, things may come up in your meditation that you're not prepared to deal with.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? So it's funny to see how much of our influence we have on everything that it is, including plant medicine. It's like we have the ability to turn it into something on both ends. We can turn it into something evil, or we can turn it into something extremely positive that is beneficial. I mean, think about the things that are used in all indigenous cultures across the country and across the world, I should say, that and it can be used in a taboo way for not good things, but in the indigenous cultures are used ceremoniously, like tobacco in certain cultures, you know, like rape is these things are used as ceremonial tools and not as a daily consumption, like a way to just numb the body out and not think, you know, they're used as a ceremony. So yeah, man, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, dude. That was awesome. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody else talk about cannabis as a therapeutic thing. So that excites me because I think that the conversation should be had. It's gone legal here.
Yep.
And that's cool, but I don't want it to turn into alcohol. And I feel like in the way that it's going right now, it could turn into just like alcohol. People will begin to abuse it and use it the wrong way, and it will destroy lives if not properly managed. So hearing you speak to that, man, is phenomenal.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this group so much is that it's like everybody has their own truth, you know, like whatever lit up the spirit inside of you and took you to the top of the mountain, like we're not going to judge. You know, last week we had somebody come in and share about how like sexual liberation was what enlightened them. And that's cool,
Yeah.
man. We want everybody to come in and share what lit them up. And it
Sure.
might work for you, it might not work for somebody, but like it worked for you. And that's
Yeah.
cool, man. You got to carry that flag. So that's what we're all about. The more people that we can come in and get to talk about how they got liberated, you know, it's more opportunities for other people to figure out potentially what could light them up. And by ever like us cutting off the source and saying, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, we're cutting off spirit, you know, and that's not what we're about. We're about just letting it all flow through. So I honor you for doing that and getting in touch with yourself. So I think, does Tracy have a question?
I do. Hi, Ben. I'm really enjoying what you're sharing, and I'm really enjoying, especially referencing Dr. Bruce Lipton. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated when you had said that you're just showing up. You're talking as if you're very grounded, very in the present moment. I'm very aware of just having this connection that channels through you, you know, that you're sharing with others. But I'm wondering, do you think ahead? Do you have intentions for the future? Do you have intentions of a purpose that you could share with us? Or is it just to be in the moment and really just liberate yourself from ever thinking about the future? But I'm a you know, I'm a planner and I'm a master's in planning.
Well,
it can be limiting. So I'm just enjoying the freedom of living in the moment, but I'm wondering how you perceive and achieve things in the future.
Thank you for that question. And I want to say thank you for the meditation, and helped to ground me before talking. I really enjoyed it. I always love heartfelt meditations. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's a great question. And I'm probably going to go into a little rant, so bear with me.
That's great.
I would say until 2012 or 13 on this spiritual journey, I thought I was going to be a monk, okay? Because I meditated 3 hours every morning for a year and a half consecutive without missing one day.
Wow.
From 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. and I would leave my body regularly. So when I was doing that, let's just say I wasn't very grounded in the world, okay? I was very about, my goal was to levitate, to ascend. And I remember going to a really cool, it's like a workshop, spiritual workshop retreat that a friend recommended, and I had no idea what it was. So of course, when I went there, they said, bring what you need for the weekend. And, you know, I showed up with a picture of my guru and probably about 10 different malas, depending on the situation. I like to make fun of myself sometimes. So then, you know, a couple of things. So I had my little ashram. And I remember one of the teachers who I didn't know, the teachers were spiritual, but they were also psychologists and psychotherapists. So they believed in, you know, talking about past trauma, talking about, you know, things that you went through as a child, going into the emotional body, the mental body. And I was like, fuck this, let's just stay present and meditate. Like, what the fuck's the point? That already happened. And they were all like, Ben, no, you don't understand. This stuff is trapped inside you, and you're using spiritual practice or meditation as a way to avoid dealing with it. And of course, my shadow or my ego, whatever you want to call it, was like, what the fuck do you know? I just want to meditate. Let me chant Hare Krishna and leave me alone. And so then they're like, no, dude, you got to do the work, and you got to open up about what happened to you when you were a kid and da-da-da-da-da. And needless to say, I couldn't stand that shit, okay? Because why? I'm not in presence. I'm talking about the past and all this stuff. But by the end of the weekend, I remember feeling so grounded and so rooted into the ground, and that spiritual side was there, but there was more of a human side to me. And instead of feeling like I was always trying to escape, we'll call it the material world, and ascend closer to God, I started to see that God or love or consciousness is everywhere. And in that presence, you can still have a life as a human being, and you can make plans, and you can run a business, and you can have sex. I remember at that time, I wouldn't let myself ejaculate for a year and a half. And I was, a young, athletic, good-looking guy. And trust me, as a yoga instructor, that was really hard. So all of a sudden, I let myself have sex. I let myself be in the world, run a business, make plans for the future. And I've been living that way ever since. So yes, I make plans. My plans for the future, and it's kind of cool. I talk about living your dream all the time. My dream actually right now is really cool. The timing is actually coming true every last step of the way. So my ultimate dream was to own a cottage in nature that was large enough to have holistic health retreats, Tai Chi, yoga, ELDOA classes, holistic personal training, team up with local farmers and community, and basically create a conscious, healthy community in nature. And I'm actually 1 week away from signing the papers for the cottage. So that's 20 years of work in the making is coming true next week.
That's cool. I'm celebrating that, Ben. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing the evolution and how you got grounded, and then and live in a physical body with a spiritual, with a very aware and in tune spirituality, right? You're merging the two beautifully, and I love seeing that. And what would you we are in a world that's undergoing so much drama, so much volatile emotional drama, and we're all feeling the weight of this emotion. So how do you, what advice? I work with little kids sometimes, and I like to just be this light for them, but I don't want to be ignoring the world they are growing up into. So when I think about the future, I think about planting these seeds of kindness and respect and love and self-awareness and managing their own feelings.
Yeah.
I know what I say to them, but what would you say to
kids that are growing up?
Yeah.
Put your feet in your mouth.
Keep flexible.
Yeah. Like explore, like see what's going on. Like, simple things. Like if I had kids, I would take them in nature. I would explain to them how things work. Get your hands dirty, your feet dirty. Explain to them how food grows, the relationship to the sun, to the rain, to the soil, the importance of movement and moving your body, being kind to one another. Pretty basic stuff,
Yeah, very cool. And then what do you think of the adults whose inner child is suffering, like people that are suffering right now and feeling so much pain and emotion? I'm sure you're aware of it. I'm sure you encounter it in your clients too.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like I just finished teaching a class. We were 10 people in the middle of the park and, doing Tai Chi and movement stuff that is different. And you can feel the whole park watching you, We're 10 people barefoot moving, and there's probably another 200 people watching. The cool thing is I'm a big believer, like Kyle was saying before, in being the light. So meaning sometimes and oftentimes actions speak louder than words. So especially in this situation, Kyle's been following me for a while. From the beginning of this lockdown, I legitimately almost got arrested about 5 times for training clients in a park. Okay? And I still did it anyways. I don't care. Like, if you're going to arrest me, like, I know my Charter of Rights and Freedoms off by heart. I'm a pretty tough guy to arrest. So, for me, I just believe that if you're really true to yourself and you're your authentic self and you're living in presence and peace, love, health, and happiness is your mission, that energy is going to be felt, right? So I kind of just choose. If someone's really, really closed off and has been binge watching CNN and living their lives on Doritos, I'm not really going to be able to have a very deep conscious talk to that person. But what everybody can feel is love.
Yeah.
So if I don't judge them,
Mm-hmm.
and I make eye contact and I smile, sometimes that's enough to change their whole life. Because they're like, well, wait a second, I'm judging you, and I don't like you because you're barefoot. I don't like you because you have long hair. You seem way too fucking happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like you.
Right.
But I'm going to say, okay, you're allowed, but I love you anyways.
Mm.
But I don't even need to say that to freak them out. I'll just send them love and smile at them. So I had a woman during this COVID thing about 6 weeks ago. I was doing Tai Chi with a client in the park, and she literally walked over. She had a mask on and the gloves and the whole thing. And I could sense her fear and her anger from like a mile away. And she literally walked up to us in the middle of our practice and started screaming at us. And she said, how dare you be playing in the park when there's a pandemic? And she just started losing it, right? So I let her finish her rant. And I just asked her, I said, excuse me, are you done?
Mm-hmm.
She says, yeah, I'm done. And I paused and I said, I love you too. And my client literally almost had a heart attack. And the woman was like, wait a second, what'd you just say? And I said it again. And then she lost it even more, okay? So she keeps losing it. And then again, I asked her, are you done? She goes, yeah. And I said, well, I still love you. And then she starts crying. It was so beautiful. She starts crying uncontrollably. By the end of it, she ended up thanking me, taking her mask off, and walking home with a smile.
Wow, that's a great story you just shared with
Good
us.
stuff.
Thank
So,
you.
you know, you do what you can.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm so grateful to have this conversation. Thank you.
Same. Thank you.
And that was beautiful. Thank you for that. And thank you, Tracy, for those awesome questions. Does anybody else have any questions? Let's see who else wants to get involved.
No questions, but that last story just pumped me up, dude. That last story pumped me up. That was awesome. Sorry.
Leanne, hey, there you go.
Hi, how you going? Thank you.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you so much, Ben. That was awesome. Really
Welcome.
good stuff. Good stuff. I work with a lot of families who have excessive trauma, and I'm talking like multiple generations and layers and types of trauma that are going on in their life. And sometimes you walk in there with the best intentions and love in your heart, and I just get lost in the amount of trauma in the house with the family and the grandparents and children. It's just ridiculous. Can you maybe suggest something that I could use in my work, perhaps?
Yeah, sure. So what kind of work do you do?
I'm a social worker working with families that have been part of the stolen generation, and domestic violence and drug use and just the whole gamut, really.
Mm-hmm.
Use.
So when you work with people, do you generally enter their own home? They're going into their private space?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Home visits, yes.
Okay. Do you generally center yourself or do any kind of meditative work before you go in?
I do for myself, yeah. So I'll walk in and I'll get myself, sort of, like you said, centered, and I'll go in there, and it'll always start really, really well. But I'll find that after a while, the intense feelings that are going on and have been in that house for a while swamp me. I can feel myself getting sapped to the point where I think, I want to take that one person away and think, okay, well, look, if I'm going to work with you, I can't work here with you because there's just so much negativity and trauma in the family that it's too much with all the people around. So I'll have to take that person away in order
Right.
for me to stay centered.
Do you feel that energy come into your body?
I feel it coming close. I can feel it, but then I leave. As soon as I can feel it getting close, and I feel a couple of times I felt a bit overwhelmed by it, you know. And then so now I go, okay, I can feel it really close. I need to leave.
Right.
Yeah.
One technique that I use, I don't have your job, so of course I could never speak from as much experience as you do, right? My job's a little bit different. But when I go into an environment that's challenging, one thing I do first is I always center myself, perform some kind of meditation that feels right to come into presence, which you do. Then the next thing I do is I actually visualize that I have a love bubble around me, almost like it's almost like an enclosed glass love bubble, or like a heart that's shaped around my body.
Yeah.
And what I do is, if ever it gets really intense and it's really hitting back, and that negative energy is coming really close to me, or I'm feeling it in my tissues, and like you feel like I need to leave or escape or something like that, I'll just let my love bubble protect me. And I'll really make sure that visualization is strong. And the second that negativity starts to shift, because I feel protected, and this is the other big point, and this is the toughest one, is I walk in there into my situation, at least, or your situation, with no expectation of anything.
Yeah.
So my job is to serve in the best way that I can, with no expectations of this going any better. And I even acknowledge that sometimes it can get worse.
Yeah.
And that everything is perfect as it already is. So because the isness of the moment is happening, there is no stopping the isness of what is. So therefore, what is happening is perfect. And it's manifesting perfectly, but not the way that we envisioned it, because generally we are loving, conscious beings that want to make a difference in the world. So when we don't see things going the way we want them to go because we care so much about the people, generally we look at the situation, we say, okay, well, no, I resist this. I don't like this. This is not the way I envisioned it. And then we have to escape, as opposed to when we walk in and we say, okay, whatever is going to manifest is God or love or divinity manifesting exactly the way it's supposed to, for whatever the fuck reason it is, who knows. That's when we have real freedom. And also the people can feel that, wait a second, I'm freaking out at her, or however they're acting, and yet she's still calm and centered and strong. And that comes with being clear, being centered, having your feet rooted into the earth, having your love bubble where nobody can hurt you, and also accepting what is.
Good. Thank you very much. That actually confirms a lot of the stuff that I am doing, but
Beautiful.
it's good to recognize, I think, that some of the things that are going on, it's okay for them to happen. They could be happening for a much bigger reason. There could be a lot of learning and a lot of catalysts changing happening in these people's lives that we just don't know about, and that's okay.
Exactly. I recently went through a divorce, and going through a divorce taught me all about.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just want to say too, I know we all have our own perceptions on whether technology is good or bad, but in this moment, I am very grateful that Leanne is from Australia joining us, and Ben
Yeah.
from Canada joining us, and that wouldn't be possible without technology. So that's pretty badass.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's why I'm embracing it more and more these days because of things like this. You know.
Yeah, man. Extending the family across the globe. Does anyone else have any questions? See, we got time for a few more. Oh, does Char Char have a question? I see Char Char with her hand up over there.
Charlotte's always down to talk. You say hi to everybody, Charlotte?
Hi,
That's my girl. Totally.
Yeah, she said I love you.
Yeah, that's Charlotte language for I love everybody.
All right, thank you for that, Char Char. Who else we got that wants to hop on the mic? Oh, there we go, Danny boy. Go ahead, Danny. Well, hold on.
There we go. Trying to unmute myself. Hey Ben, man, it was great to hear you. I gotta say, meditating from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. every day is some next level stuff right there, man. Dude, so my question is, if you had any advice on like how to keep momentum, and like what I mean by that is like, I know for me personally, like stuff like meditation, eating healthy, or physical fitness, like I can catch fire for a while and I can keep it going, but then I kind of burn out where it's like, damn. And then like, I'll let a day go by where I don't do it, and a day turns into a week, and a week turns into a month. And then I kind of got to start all over again. If you just had any advice on just kind of, whether it's self-discipline or whatever, on just to kind of keep that, that momentum going, like even when you don't want to, you know what I mean?
Right. That's a good question. Well, the first thing I do when I wake up every single day is I give thanks. So when I wake up, I wake up and I say, thank you for another day to be able to experience life as an incarnated soul, as a human being. So what I really do, and it's going to sound kind of cliche, is after I give thanks, I say to myself, all right, today was my last day on this earth. How would I live? And I truly have been living that for a long time. So what I do is I keep death right here. And that's a Buddhist philosophy. And what it does is, to me at least, is, all right, if I know meditation makes me feel well, if I know that eating good food makes me feel well, if I know that exercising makes me feel well and makes me a more conscious, loving being, and I feel good, I treat others with more love and more respect, I see the world the way that I want to see it, in a state of love and unity. And then I go deeper and I say, okay, if today was my last day, how would I kiss my girlfriend? How would I hug the people that I love? What would my meditation be like? What would my interaction with others be? And what is my purpose on this earth? What do I want to do? So what it really comes down to is, for me at least, living each day as if it was your last, and really embodying that. People talk about that a lot. You hear that a lot. But to really do that means, when you hug somebody, say you can picture someone now that you really care about, and you knew, this is the last time I'm going to hug that person. This is the last time I'm going to sit in meditation. This is the last meal I'm going to eat. Everything changes. But it takes, excuse my language, a lot of balls.
Yeah, buddy.
Right on, man.
So I have those balls because you're on here. So man, just do it.
Yeah, buddy. Thank you, Danny, for that question. Great answer. That's fantastic. Who else? We got a time for a couple more, maybe one more. Anybody else?
Yo, I have a question.
Yeah. Is that Leah? It sounds
It's kind of Leah.
masculine.
Can you see me?
Who is that?
It's Sean.
All right, I thought so.
Yo, what's up, Ben? I actually run the Instagram, so I talk to you on there sometimes.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, I see your stories about juicing,
Yeah.
and I was just wondering if you could share some of the health benefits of juicing with the group.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, juicing is cool, man. How do I go about juicing? All right. So first thing I'm going to say is I only juice when my soul feels like juice. That's the first thing. So I'm not one of those juicers that like they like live on juice and that's all they do. Because to me, and again, this is just where I'm coming from, that can be a dogma a bit. It's same as like, let's just say, all right, I'm eating keto or I'm eating vegan or I'm eating this way. To me, I listen to my soul. So if my soul wants juice, I'm going to juice. If it doesn't want, I'm not going to juice. If that makes sense. So in the winter time, I barely feel like juicing. Barely. In the winter times, I eat more like stews and hearty kind of foods. I'll eat more eggs and like more like grounded kind of food. That's just what I want to eat. But when the weather gets nice, I start juicing a lot because that's just what feels right. So what I'll say is some of the benefits for me at least are going to be energy. That's first thing because the cells tend to suck up juicing really quickly. So if you can imagine, usually I juice like 3 pounds of fruits and vegetables. So if you try to eat 3 pounds of fruits and vegetables, generally speaking, you're going to have to lie down because all the fiber in your gut's going to be like, dude, what the hell did you do to me, man? I can't move, you know? But if you juice it and you extract the fiber and you're taking in all the vitamins and the minerals and it's hitting you really quick at it and it's digested like this, all of a sudden you get all those benefits, but it stays light in the body. So I love that. For me, I find it awakens your consciousness. It cleans your body at a cellular level. And for me, it brings me into a very energetic state where I feel like I can accomplish a lot throughout the day. So I try to eat really, really light throughout the day when it's warm outside because I tend to get more done and help more people. And then my last meal of the day, I eat something very grounding. So generally my diet is mostly fresh juices and salads throughout the day. And I'm not a vegan, so at night I'll eat an ethically raised organic piece of animal flesh with some kind of heavier carbohydrate like potatoes and things like that. And that generally works for me throughout the summertime. So hopefully that helps.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Guys. That was great. We got time for one more. And I love that answer, man, by the way. My soul wants to juice, I'm going to juice.
That's it.
Yeah, baby. All right, what do we got?
Okay, can I ask one last thing?
Yeah, for sure.
You mentioned, Ben, the 6 pillars. Would you mind repeating what they are?
Yeah, so these come from Paul Chek. So the yin side is nutrition, hydration, and sleep. And the yang side is thinking, moving, and breathing. And if you want one of the best books ever written on holistic health, buy How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Paul Chek.
Beautiful, thank you.
That book is unbelievable.
Thank you.
Welcome. He also has, since you're asking, a 4 doctors principle: Dr. Movement, Dr. Quiet, Dr. Diet, and Dr. Happiness.
Okay. Yeah.
And basically balance the 6 foundation principles and you take care of the 4 doctors and you're good to go.
Sweet. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Is anybody else before we? Oh yeah, nice, Betty. Awesome.
Hi, everyone. I'd just like to give a suggestion too to Ben, because I've been around a long time. But this is a great book. I don't know if it's backwards.
Cool.
It's Let's Get Well by Adele Davis.
I
This
love
book,
the title, straight to the point.
yes. The book has been out of print for many years, but you can find used ones,
Cool.
and it's very, very good. I had bursitis, and I listened to what she said with the vitamins, what to eat, what not to eat, and this was over 40 years ago, and it went away and never came back.
Amazing. I'll write that down. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll put it in the chat.
Cool.
Did anyone else have their hand up? I don't know if I saw anyone else. I know Joe wants to say one more thing. Joey, go ahead, bud.
Yo, Ben, I just want to commend you real quick, man, because I think for the first time in my life, like I witnessed something in you watching you speak tonight that I want to emulate in my own life. You're probably one of the most, you can see presence on you, which you can't see in most people. Like I can witness you being present right now and not trying, I can watch these answers coming from a place of presence, and they're not coming from a place of, I need to answer this question this way. You allow the answer to arise. And I think that watching you just speak the way you've spoken tonight and answer questions has helped me realize something in myself that I may even, especially as a podcast host, need to be more present and allow, without judging what it is that I'm thinking or what it is that I want to say, come out, because it's been really like calming and beautiful to just watch you speak from a really authentic, real place, man. And that's something I got from you out of this conversation hugely, and I'm going to take that 100% with me, man. So thank you for being that.
Thank you. That's really kind of you, and that means a lot to me. It's funny that you say that, because when I finished teaching my class tonight, the class finished at 7:30, and my girlfriend was in the class. And, it takes about 15 minutes to drive back home. But my students loved the class so much that I wasn't going to cancel it, right? That's just the way I am. I try to bring as much love as I can to people. And so my girlfriend's like, so did you prepare? Like, what are you talking about? I was like, to be honest, I have no clue. As you could tell, I was like, I think I'm talking about, health, holistic health and how it relates and things like that. She said, well, did you write anything down? Because she's a lawyer. I always prep for meetings and things like that. I said, no, anytime I ever do that, like I said earlier in the talk, that was the person who wrote down those notes is not the person who was born today. Mm. So even if I made some notes yesterday on some ideas I had, this is just my personal opinion. Who I am today is not who I was yesterday. And that goes in tune with the whole juicing thing. Like, if I don't feel like juicing, dude, I don't juice. Mm. If my soul wants to eat a fat rib steak, I'm going to eat a rib steak. If I want to juice that day, I'm going to juice. If I speak a certain way that day and it's different tomorrow, that's just what's happening.
How awesome is it? Like that you just exemplified it right there, man. You're like the one person I've been able to see that just doesn't allow their ego to attack their authenticity at all. And that's awesome, man. That's fantastic.
I think it comes a lot too down to self-love, and also not giving a shit about what people think about you.
Yeah, man. And I love that.
Because when you don't give a shit anymore about what people think about you, nothing really matters, man.
It's the truth. Yeah, man. Dude.
You're gonna die anyway. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, man. Epic, man. I love this, man. I could talk to you for hours, bro. This is awesome.
Actually, I see one more hand. I see Cam. Cam, go ahead, buddy.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, man.
So I just kind of wanted to go back to what Danny was saying, just based on your answer there, about kind of living that day and if you didn't want to juice, you want to juice, and kind of staying in that moment. How does that reflect, and how do you kind of live that mindset when you're having negative impulses and things that aren't good for you?
Right. So basically when you're caught in your shit kind of thing. Yeah, I get caught in my shit too, by the way. I'm not the Buddha by any means. Yeah, dude. How can I relate this the best possible? Okay, yeah, I'll give you an example. When I was going through a divorce recently, I was supposed to be my soulmate. Back then we were business partners, best friends, everything. And we were like this. And then literally one day it wasn't. So when it ended and I felt like I couldn't pick myself up off the floor, what really helped me, but it's tough, was I'm experiencing this, therefore I have to. The pain body, or the pain that I'm feeling, is necessary for me to grow. And one of my biggest influencers since I'm 18, 19 years old is Eckhart Tolle. And he's amazing. If you haven't studied much of his work, I would definitely get on that. The Power of Now is an amazing book. And he talks a lot about the pain body. And so how it relates to this, when you accept that life is supposed to be challenging, that's a huge one. Because often when we get on the spiritual path, a lot of people you can picture, you ever talk to someone and you ask them how they are, and they're always like with a big fake smile, yeah, I'm great. And you can sense deep down that they're not so good.
Yeah.
That happens a lot on the spiritual path, and that's not healthy. Okay. So when you accept that life is a challenge and you're going to be sucker punched from time to time and it's going to fucking hurt, when you're in that and when you're feeling that pain and you don't want to do shit, right? You don't want to make a juice. You don't want to make a salad. You'd rather just go to the drive-thru and, caffeinate yourself or whatever it is. Use your awareness. I like to use the term awareness muscle, right? Because I'm a trainer. So use your awareness muscle, because the more you use it, the stronger it gets, to bring light to the pain and to the darkness. So what you do is you say, okay, I feel like fucking shit. I want to eat a cheeseburger and lie on the couch. Just the fact that you can acknowledge that and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling, and not push it aside and pretend that you're good. Then you can make a conscious choice and say, wait a second. This is what I'm feeling. This is where I'm at. This is the choice that I'm thinking of making. But as the soul, or as the awareness of that thought, who is not me, I can make a conscious choice. And I can say, no, you know what? I'm not going to go to the drive-thru, and I'm going to make myself some healthy food at home. And no, I'm not going to skip my meditation to jerk off to porn, if that's what you want to do. I'm going to sit in meditation. But it starts with, one, acknowledgement of darkness, pain, and accepting it's part of being a human being, and it's always going to be there. Two, using your awareness muscle to bring light to it. And then three, making the choice as a conscious being and treating your body, mind, and soul like a temple.
Awesome. It makes a lot of sense, you saying that, and being able to bring it to light and accept it, but not necessarily give into it.
Exactly.
So that's awesome.
It's like if you can acknowledge that you're having negative thoughts or a shitty day, then aren't you separate from that?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Right? So if you're caught in your head and you're thinking about a million things, but then you can stop and say, hey, I'm thinking about a million negative things, then wait, isn't there a separation between you and the thought?
Right.
One of the best poems on that ever is The Guest House by Rumi.
It's just
That one is amazing. So basically what he's saying is, you know, this life is a guest house, right? With it, you're going to get lots of visitors. Some of those visitors are going to be dark, angry, depressed, etc. Welcome them all graciously into your home and be a good host, right? So through life, you're going to get some, you know, nobody goes to the doctor and say, Doc, I don't know what's wrong with me. You know, I'm just happy all the time. Can you like fix this? Because I'm way too stoked, right? Nobody does that. People go to the doctor and they say, hey man, I've been constantly feeling like shit. I don't feel well. So we view as human beings, whether we like it or not, we're programmed since we're kids to think that darkness or negative thoughts are a bad thing. But it's not necessarily true. And this is why. Without darkness, there is no light, right? We wouldn't know what happiness was unless we knew what depression was.
Right.
So when we bring that light to darkness and we actually welcome it as a teacher and say, hey, wait, I understand that you're trying to help me, right? It's trying to help you. But hey, I got this as the soul.
No, that's awesome. I definitely understand where you're coming from, and it's a good, like you say, I guess a good exercise to have.
Exactly.
So thank you very much for that answer. Definitely shed light on how to differentiate between the two emotions with that action.
Yeah, and have compassion for yourself, because remember, you're a human being. And as a human being, our souls came into this body for one reason, if you ask me: to evolve and to grow. How are you going to evolve and grow if everything is fairy tales and fucking unicorns?
Right, right.
It's not going to happen. Why? It's because if you never have any separation, you would already be the divine. You wouldn't need to come into a body to understand that. One day you awaken, you're like, wait a second. I am God. I am love. But you needed to come into a body to awaken to that. Because if you already knew that, you wouldn't come into a body.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that. That was great.
Pleasure, brother.
All right, we're about out of time, but I've been getting a lot of text messages that everybody loves you, man, and so I put down your website, benribkoff.com, and
Cool.
at Ben Ribkoff on all the social media things, so everybody go follow him, and
yeah, I might hit 100 followers by the end of this. Bro.
yeah, man.
Hey, like,
you always got a home, man, with the Quantum Healing Collective. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your soul. It was a pleasure. What we do now is we have Kristen read a dedication of merit. It's a little prayer we do to everybody awakening at this time. So.
Okay, so before I do the dedication, I just want to say thanks, Ben. That was incredible. Probably one of the best speakers we've had so far. You can just feel the alignment, kind of like Joe was saying. It felt effortless, you know, because like you can tell you're just speaking your truth. Like it's just coming through you. It's not coming from here. It's really, you know, and it was incredible to just listen to that. And you dropped so many amazing authors. Bruce Lipton, Paul Chek, the Rumi, like just wisdom. It's just it's like you embody everything that this group stands for. So thank you so much for your presence and your time tonight. So we take all that energy, all those high frequencies, those people that you just lit up with your passion and your wisdom for life, and we take all of that energy And we dedicate the merit of this meeting to all of those who are awakening at this precious time. May our efforts to better ourselves help shift planetary consciousness from fear into love. May this energy ripple out into the world and awaken those with closed hearts, illuminate closed minds, and inspire all to live within the presence of compassion and generosity.
Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
And thank you for those kind words. I'm humbled. Thank you.